Ladies and gentlemen, they're going after the direct political rivals once again. Wonderful, highly educated, morally superior Democrats are yet again going after the direct political rivals, utilizing the United States government, which is what they accused, incidentally, of Trump. 30 people associated with former President Trump are now being investigated. Hit subscribe to this channel right now, ladies and gentlemen. We are actually about 1,000 away from 200,000 subs, and it's because of you. This is a very interesting topic, and the reason that they're stepping up these investigations is not because Trump committed a crime. They could have easily indicted him, like 6 years ago. They investigate because they can't really prove he committed a crime in a court of law. They need to investigate endlessly because... And hit subscribe, and to my super chat, I cannot thank you enough. JG, Eric, everyone here, DVK, hello. Everybody here, thank you so very much. Liz, everyone here. They investigate Trump because, gee, let's see, what's this? Oh! Stubbornly high rents, food prices boost U.S. inflation in August. CPI inflation rate, they say it fell, but we'll get to that. But hot core prices jolt the Fed and Dow Jones. Headline inflation is the raw inflation number reported through the Consumer Price Index. Core inflation is the change in the cost of goods and services, but it does not include those from the food and energy sectors. And you look, when they say, well, inflation rate fell, that is because of a momentary drop in oil and gas prices or oil prices, but you still had food prices and rent increasing. So really, it's actually becoming more expensive to live in the U.S. and around the world, and this is directly because of the obsession Democrats have. And now climate change is very important, but when you are obsessed with transforming the U.S. economy after you gleefully and in the most apoplectic manner ended economic activity and then immediately want to transform the economy to save the planet after you ended economic activity because you're so morally superior and highly educated and always wrong, you have inflation now at 8.3 to 9.1%, but food costs and rent costs are higher. So, headline inflation is the raw inflation number reported through the Consumer Price Index. The Consumer Price Index inflation determines inflation by calculating the prices on a fixed basket of goods. Core inflation removes the CPI components that can exhibit large amounts of volatility from month to month. Okay. So, you look, and it's just here. Okay, so let's just read this. The CPI inflation rate continued to pull back, not really, only slightly. It pulled back 8.3% to 8.3%. It was supposed to be 8.1%. Okay? Exactly, JG. To my super chat, everyone. I can't do this without you. If you want to talk about the economy, Trump, midterms, we're going to have an amazing midterms via super chat. That'd be greatly appreciated. As I beg for super chat, remember, save your money. It's going to get a lot worse. I've been predicting this since September of 2021. It's going to get a lot worse. The CPI inflation rate continued to pull back, but less than expected. Core inflation, which removes food and energy prices, unexpectedly reaccelerated from July's tamer pace. So, rent continued to skyrocket. We'll get to that in a second. There are people paying more for apartments than mortgages, just rent for apartments than actual mortgages throughout this country, especially in major cities. You're gonna pay about $3,000 to $4,000 for an apartment, 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 for an apartment in any major city in this country that isn't per month, that is just in a nice area, that isn't that big of an apartment. It might not be the best area in in the city, actually. I mean, that's not. I mean, forget about New York, or near the beach in Los Angeles. Forget about that. That could be close to $5,000. But following the CPI report, which cinches a big Fed height rate next week, the Dow Jones Industrial Average turned sharply lower. Does it make any sense, JG and Eric and everyone here? Does it make any sense that you're going to raise interest rates while inflation is at all-time highs in a contracting economy? Lisa, hello. Does that make any sense? Does that make any sense? Tree Climber, hello. Laughing Dog, hello. When you have a contracting economy with inflation through the roof, real wages down, the CPI inflation rate eased to 8.3, but you know these numbers are not exactly accurate. Inflation in general didn't ease. When you have rent and food prices they keep going up, the CPI rate, inflation rate eased to 8.3%, retreating from 8.5 in June's 9.1. Yep, okay, you've also flooded strategic petroleum reserves, so I don't buy this nonsense. But anyway, Wall Street economists had expected the CPI to show a 0.1 monthly decline, 0.1% monthly decline, bringing the CPI inflation rate to 8%. Okay, so the consumer price index rose 0.1% on the month. They were expecting a 0.1% decline. The core CPI rose 0.6% from July. Okay? Economists had expected the monthly increase to match July's 0.3%. The annual core inflation rate rose to 6.3% from 5.9%. March's 6.5% core inflation rate was the highest since August 1982. A hotter than expected reading on core inflation will keep pressure on the Fed to hike its key interest rate by 75 basis points for a third straight meeting. So now, as the economy shrinks and people pay more for goods, their credit card bills are going to go through the roof. Suddenly, if you had, $150, $200, or $300 a month because you've maxed out a certain credit card, now it's going to be a lot higher. Some people have over $1,000 in credit card bills every month. Well, actually, a great many families do. We have household debt at all-time highs in this country. So this is a terrible economy, and we didn't have this. We had inflation at 1.8% with Trump. The Orange Menace, we had inflation at 1.8%. But here, Dow Jones tumbled 3.9%. The S&P 500 slumped 4.3%. NASDAQ Composite 5.2%. Prices for food away from home rose 0.9% and 8% from a year ago. Prices for food at home, prices for food consumed at home climbed 0.7% last month and 13.5% over the last year. The rent index rose 0.7%. But let's go ahead and read here. Stubbornly high rent food prices boost U.S. inflation in August. Core CPI surges 0.6%, increases 6.3% year on year. The U.S. consumer prices unexpectedly rose in August, and underlying inflation accelerated amid rising costs for rents and healthcare. So rent and healthcare and food costs. So you had you had a momentary. Now, what happens if oil or when oil goes back up? Because oil is going to go back up. You're going to have an increased demand for oil. The whole reason that oil is down is because they say, "Oh, we're in a recession." D'Artagnan, Valentino, thank you for starting it off. Thank you, D'Artagnan. Thank you so very much. I hope all is well. The surprising inflation reading reports by the Labor Department on Tuesday were despite an easing in global supply chain, would contribute to a surge in prices earlier in the year. With a resilient labor market supporting strong wage growth, that's not true. Real wages are down 4.4%. Real wages are down, okay? Real wages are down. You're spending more of your paycheck because of inflation. So, and the labor market is only strong because it took 2+ years to get back to where we were in the beginning of 2020. So it took 2 years to get back to where we were. It took 2 years to get back to where we were when we had record low unemployment and, oh, by the way, less than 2% inflation. Now we have the same job numbers, but 8.3 to 9.1% inflation with rent and food and prices going up and healthcare prices going up. And then Democrats talk about, oh, we care about poor people. Like, you caused the poverty. And so, surprisingly, firm inflation reading reports, but reported by the Labor Department on Tuesday, were despite an easing in global. They spent all of 2021 stating that there is no inflation problem. There's no inflation problem. No inflation problem at all. Everything's fine. Okay, they spent all of 2021. Then they said, "Oh, look at the job numbers." It's like, yeah, you ignored inflation, and then you went after oil and gas companies. It didn't work out. But here, President Mashed Potato on Tuesday said it would take more time and resolve to bring inflation down, and cited the recently passed Inflation Reduction Act. It's like at lowering the cost of healthcare. No, healthcare went up. Healthcare went up, buddy. Yeah, yeah. Excluding the volatile food and energy components, the CPI rose 6% in August. Excluding the volatile food and energy components, which, by the way, are going up. You could say, well, energy went down because oil prices went down, but that's an they're pumping strategic petroleum reserves into these are the same people who want to save the planet, and they're pumping strategic petroleum reserves into but see, again, when I was on the left, I didn't even know what I didn't really care to know, or even, I didn't discuss core inflation or headline inflation or inflation in general. I understood the concept. It's not like I didn't understand economic principles, but I didn't really care. It's basically a cult where you just believe certain things because you're on the left, you think you're morally superior, but you don't realize that, well, if you are trying to base your morality on economic justice and you don't even talk about how poverty is being created by democratic policies, and you continue to vote Democrat, you're not doing anyone any good. You're not doing anybody any good. Excluding the volatile food and energy components, the CPI rose 6%. I don't believe that energy costs went down. Even they say oil went down, but diesel went up. So let's just read here. Diesel and other commodities are big drivers of food prices. Hang on for a long ride. This is Barron's. Okay, this is Barron's. So, like, here, this is very important. You could take any edgy socialist, morally superior, grandstanding, left-leaning, 25 or 22-year-old or 33-year-old or 38-year-old socialist, communist, progressive, and you can give them this article, and you can, because I was on the left for my whole life up until about 4 years ago, and I never read articles like this when I was writing about Bernie Sanders. Diesel and other commodities are big drivers of food prices. Hang on for a long ride. Bernie Sanders doesn't read these articles. Nobody on the left. They don't realize that every socialist country has the highest poverty rate in the world. Their entire the raison d'être for a wonderful, morally superior left-leaning pundit is you're going to pontificate and preach about how bad capitalism is, without realizing that the policies that they want will actually cause poverty. They will pontificate about the evils of poverty while actively promoting policies that cause people to be mired in economic despair and poverty. It's unbelievable. That's why, if I ever got into a debate with anyone, like a left-leaning economist, I'd be like, well, look at the economy. Poverty has increased. We had a record low in poverty with Trump. You would think that socialists would love Trump. In 2019, we had the lowest poverty rate since it was recorded in 1959, and the highest household median incomes. What's wrong? What would be wrong with that? What's wrong with that? But here, the pace of U.S. inflation has slowed, not really, but energy prices remain high and are expected to continue to contribute to rising food costs. Look, here's a nasty little secret. Do you want to know a nasty little secret? It's not even really a little secret. Yeah, it's not impossible. The national average reaches $2.99. No, if you completely gut strategic petroleum reserves, this is not sustainable. Okay, you have core inflation going up, which excludes food and energy. Now, and it didn't even, and headline inflation didn't even go down fast enough. Okay, now what happens? What happens when oil prices go back up? You will see headline inflation go back up. This is not rocket science. This is not rocket science. The inflation rate barely went down, and and that's with Biden reversing his energy policies that were meant to save the planet, pumping strategic petroleum reserves into the country. And then you have the embargo on a certain country that is actually going to really start next month. Brent crude and WTI crude are going to go well above $100. Okay? So inflation is going to remain 8.3. It could reach 10%. The official numbers could reach 10% easily. Now, if you look at different estimates, they're saying 12, 13, 14, 15%. Okay? But I mean, this is Michael Burry is absolutely right. Corporate profits are going to decline. People are slowly, and I'm telling you, slowly realizing, they're immediately realizing that food costs have gone through the roof. Okay? But they're slowly realizing that inflation is like an economic catastrophe. Everything is more expensive. But here, really quickly, extreme weather. Oh, here we go. Input costs, interest rates, geopolitical tensions. High fuel costs is just one factor, creating increased input costs, and rising interest rates cut into already thin revenue margins for the farmers, and additional costs are passed along to the consumer. Interest rates will increase food prices. Increasing interest rates will increase food prices. Increasing interest rates, okay, is supposed to slow down the economy in a moment where we're in a recession, a contracting economy. What kind of complete imbecile would want to slow down an economy by raising interest rates in a recession? Brilliant. Because you Democrats caused the inflation. We did not have the inflation. The initial thing was to go to battle with the initial sin was mashed potato brains Joe going to battle with oil and gas, so getting sued by oil and gas associations, saying, you can't drill on federal lands. Then he reversed that. Okay. But then not even addressing, if you wanted to raise interest rates, you should have raised interest rates and addressed inflation in 2021. You don't wait until 2022 like a complete uh, person who knows nothing. I don't even know. I mean, YouTube policies are trying to be like Tuesday data from the U.S. labor statistics showed that falling gasoline prices helped lead to a second consecutive low U.S. inflation reading, but the consumer price index still edged up by 1%, by 0.1% in August, contrary to the 0.1% drop expected. But see, core CPI, which strips out food and energy, rose by a much sharper 0.6%. Headline inflation still went up, which is interesting because then they say, well, it's 8.3% instead of 8.5% year over year. It's like, well, but what? But the CPI went up 0.1%. I don't even know. Year over year food index component with CPI was 11.4%. And they want to blame their horrible policies on what's taking place in Europe. Nobody buys it because what's taking place in Europe is also um, failed policies by Democrats. And so it's like you have a situation. This is like self-induced. All these problems are self-induced issues. Okay, self-induced issues, always self-induced issues. And Michael Burry, big short investors, Michael Burry warns, last hurrah for corporate profits. When corporate profits decline, okay, when corporate profits decline, and you have the market valuations, you have people, the stock market plummeting and saying, wait a second, all of these prices are predicated upon a growing economy. We have a recession. And they say wages are up, but no, but real wages are down 4.4%. And you have inflation actually still increasing, headline and core inflation, although they say the inflation rate year over year was down 8.3%. The CPI. So I don't really get that because I've just read right now here 0.1% increase. In August, and then this is a global issue. In August, the United Nations Food Price Index, a measure of monthly change in international price for a basket of food commodities, saw a fifth straight monthly decline. Hold on one second. I'm reading something differently. Food prices are going up in the U.S., which that's bizarre, though. That number makes no sense because food prices are going up. Around the world, they're going up. So layoffs, J.P. Morgan, B of A cautious on job cuts as Goldman layoffs loom. So you're going to have layoffs. Layoffs could mean for the economy. Um, Here, food prices. Let's go really quickly. How food and energy are driving the global inflation surge. This is the Washington Post. And notice how whenever they report on something terrible or dire, it has nothing to do with Democrats. Absolutely nothing to do. Oh, sorry about that. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Please go hit subscribe again if you get kicked off. Sorry about that. Sorry. Thank you, JG. Here. A number of economists had been hopeful that the precipitous 2-month decline in gas prices would finally. Data released Tuesday showed a large price increase persists for core items that make up a central part of most families' budget. Housing and food remain major strains. The government food index, for example, has risen 11.4% over the past year, the largest 12-month increase since May of 1979. We had record-breaking economic numbers with Trump. Are you serious? What is going on here? What is going on? It's so bizarre. Jane from the country. Thank you, Jane. Sorry about, everything was going great in terms of the connection, and now the connection is like, thank you, Jane. Get Thank you, S23. Hello. Jane from the country. Thank you so very, very much. Greatly appreciated. I hope all is well. To my super chat, thank you. I can't do this without you, ladies and gentlemen. The government's food index, for example, has risen 11.4% over the past year. This is why they're desperate to investigate and go after Trump. This is why, ladies and gentlemen. This is why. This is why. That's what all the hysteria over Trump is about. That's what the hysteria over Trump is about. The worse things get in terms of the economy, the more obsessed they'll be over Trump. There's something I did. I upgraded the package in the numerous locations and it still has. I don't know why. It's so weird. Lately, it's been doing okay in here, but you know, I don't know what's going on. But thank you, everybody. S23, thank you. Jane from the country, thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. So, the government's food index monthly change in inflation. So, recession has continually increased. The government's food index, for example, has risen 11.4%. Jane, thank you again. So, food prices were up 0.8% from July to August. Flour was up 2.2%. See, again, these prices are like, what are they looking at? Because it feels like a 30 to 40% increase when you go to the supermarket. It feels like that. Potato prices rose 2 point butter 1.9%. Canned fruit 3.4%. It's like, okay. The new report could sober Democrats' hopes that inflation will recede as an issue before the midterms. That's why they're going after Trump. And there are growing energy prices could rise later this year if you know who causes a European energy crisis. Really? Oh, and if they roil the global economy, it could never be us. They took it from Clinton in 2016. They're the ones. The demagogues are amazing within media. It's amazing. It's never our it's never our fault. It's always, they're the problem. They're the problem. You know. Inflation emerged as a major economic strain last year, fueled by soaring demand for goods and services that exacerbated supply chain problems. There are signs that inflation might have hit its peak in June when it notched 9.1% over 12 months, but price increases have not slowed as much as some had imagined. A number of factors are keeping prices high. Rent, for example, keeps going up because there's so much more demand for units than there are homes to go around. That's not the only reason. That's not the only reason. When you ended economic activity 2 years ago and you slowly opened up the economy in 2021, and you made mistake after mistake, um, starting with the shutting down of economic activity. That's a huge reason why you have um, the increase in rent. Food prices, meanwhile, are jumping for a host of different reasons. Beef is more expensive in part because high feed and water costs, as well as droughts in most ranch lands. Okay, fruits and vegetables were being pinched by droughts in California, among other things. But we have droughts. We've had droughts all the time. Like you have droughts all the time in California throughout the past, what, they just 60, 70 years. You've had droughts, you've had all these problems, but you haven't had the inflation that we have today. And even though gas prices have fallen, some energy prices keep rising. Electricity costs, for example, rose 1.5% in August, the fourth straight month of at least 1.3% increase. And definitely, let's completely transform everyone. Like, everyone must drive an electric vehicle. Everyone. This will definitely not completely ruin the electric grid. Jane, thank you so very, very much. And so that's why, I mean, you look at DOJ investigating 30 people in Trump's orbit. And then inflation will be, then you'll have another economic catastrophe or numbers that are terrible before November. And it'll be Justice Department investigating 60 people around Trump's galaxy. And then you'll have some more terrible economic news. And then that day, Justice Department really goes, you have no idea, Trump universe now being in the universe around Trump. I mean, about 78,000 people investigated. In other news, the economy stinks. But Trump investigation, criminal investigation, overturning democracy. But everyone's spending more money for food and gas and rent. And, life is more expensive. It's going into 3 years now. The economy stinks. Foreign policy is a catastrophe. Trump's a criminal, though. He's a criminal. Criminal Trump. This rhetoric, we have no place in our. This is the new talking point. There's no place in America for this rhetoric. But what about inflation at all-time highs? What aboutism? What aboutism? Like, oh, poverty? Okay, no problem. Poverty is just fine as long as you don't go ahead and um as long as you don't allow Trump to have a voice in American politics. Oh my God. Here we go. They're increasing. Justice Department investigating 40 people in a week. 40 people. It's like an auction for how much they can invest. Can I get a 40? Can I get a 50? 1,000 people around Trump's galaxy. Um, They're going after him for January. They're going after him for trying to overturn democracy months earlier. They're going after him, and it's been 2 years, just like the meme, just like the Titanic meme. It's been 2 years. It's been 84 years. Here, it's been 84 years. Where is this thing? It's been 84 years. We still haven't indicted or convicted Trump. Meanwhile, we're all rationing turnips and, not eating well, and rent is through the roof, and gas prices, we don't really travel anymore. Oil prices are too high, because of the Kremlins. It's been 84 years. One day the walls are closing in. One day they'll finally close in. And so you have this situation where love trucks, hello, lined off face, hello, pony soldier, hello. And it's like you have a situation where it's only going to get worse. And the more that they investigate, there's an absolute direct correlation between the negative economic numbers and um and Trump. I mean, and Trump investigations. Now, if you look, let's see, what is Real Clear Politics? Still up over mashed potato brains. This is a man that cannot be platformed. You cannot repeat anything that he believes pertaining to certain topics, or else you'll wish you've never been born. He is a menace to democracy, which has been redefined into whatever suits Democrats and their political ambitions. And he has negative, Trump gets universally negative media coverage all the time. Again, what is going on with this? What is going on? You still have Trump over mashed potato brains. I mean, it's imagine, ladies and gentlemen, just imagine if media, everybody from Jimmy Kimmel and Late Night to the Washington Post to the New York Times didn't obsess every single day, 24/7, on how terrible and horrible Trump is for democracy and for your life. Imagine if people just had, like, we used to have politics as only one small part of American life. It was one small part. People weren't disowning friends and family. And, it's like people with critical thinking skills are able to either vote Trump or realize that he's not that bad and just choose Biden, but, like, not obsess over him. But the people who actually vote Trump are doing so because they're smart enough to realize that what media has done and what Democrats have done and what Hollywood and Late Night, all these people have done is they've sensationalized and they've exaggerated every single critique of Trump into this fantasy world. If you want, like, Democrats all throughout the past 3 years have been very, very malicious online. I mean, Twitter never, hardly ever enforces its own guidelines when you have somebody on the left saying something, terrible. But generally, what they'll say is, "Oh, you didn't agree with us, so you deserve everything you get." Meh. And so, so you chose mashed potato brains, and now you have a horrible economy. Now there's going to be layoffs. Now it's really sad too, because we didn't have to have any of this. We didn't have to have any of this. But here, what Michael Burr, big short investor, warns of last hurrah of corporate profits. And then you have, hold on one second, then you have Dow Jones down. Look at this here. And this is 30, it was at 32 just on Monday. It was at 32,000 yesterday. The high was 32,479. And then it just went down to 31,100 today. But it's like on August 16th it was at 34,152. And now you get 31,000, and it's going to go way past 30,000 because corporate profits are going to decline. Corporate profits are going to decline. And it's this is the economy that the people wanted this world. People voted for this world. Um, but you have to also understand, like, the world we live in right now. If Trump had presided over an invasion in Europe, inflation at 8 to 9%, food costs rising, if he had presided over all of these problems, okay, imagine the media response. The media response would be just beyond apoplectic. They thought the Helsinki conference, when Trump met with you know who, was like the biggest affront on decency and morality, okay? Because they convinced themselves that, oh, what's that? Oh, that's right. That 2016 was taken from them. There was not a day that went by after 2016 where they accepted Trump as legitimate. He was always an illegitimate president. I mean, these people are the biggest hypocrites on the planet. It's unbelievable. The hypocrisy is unbelievable. And it's like, I mean, the hypocrisy is just unbelievable. These people never accept anything that doesn't go their way. There's a judge that ruled, God forbid, in favor of Trump, and then they're going after the judge. And then they make these um and then they make these um they make these like very broad, ambiguous claims. Oh, Trump, he sows distrust of our Democrats. The second the judge doesn't give them what they want, they write endless hit pieces. I mean, it's pretty unbelievable. It's really unbelievable. And then they go, oh yes, extreme murder program. Um, Focusing on economic growth. That is what you want in a president. We have a crumbling economy now. Ladies and gentlemen, I am running out of steam. We're approaching an hour. Um, I will try my best to do another live stream tomorrow evening. I think I will. Um, be here tomorrow evening at um be here tomorrow evening, ladies and gentlemen. Probably at around 9 p.m. or so. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much. To my super chat, thank you. Just running out of steam this evening. Um, basically the economy stinks. And the worse the economy gets, the more they're going to obsess over Trump. And that's the state of American politics now. It's really sad, but that's the issue. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now. Thanks everybody. JG, everybody here. I will see you. I'll try my best to